Jaylen Williams veers left, pulls up, looking for the lead, and he got it! Holmgren, middle up and under, off the backboard! Chet Holmgren set it up for himself!
The Rockets get the offensive rebound after an empty trip.
Goodness! Wow!
Tyrese Maxey had one double-double in his 3 previous seasons. Maxey has another!
Down 3, step line!
Reflections in the league, and Caruso, an excellent play.
Oh, watch your head, Harrison.
Twin brother of a Mem Thompson. What a move! Oh, Duncan Robinson!
Yo, here we are at the end of the season, and it's time to start to wrap up everything that we've learned and highlight some of the most important factors throughout this NBA year. It's been chock full of a bunch of new information. I'm going to continue to make videos like this as we head into the postseason. Make sure you check out all these videos. I actually did one just last week, and make sure you go check it out. But today's video, we are talking about the players who had the great breakout season. Some of the biggest surprises, players who stepped out on the scene, and players you should be on the lookout for moving forward, especially heading into the postseason. First, we have Jaylen Williams, scoring wing out with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and his progression in his sophomore season has really aided the process of propelling the Thunder into title contention. The type of jump that we saw from Jaylen this year normally happens in year 3 or 4, but this season he's going to finish the year off at a near 20-point per game score, giving around 4 to 5 assists as well as 4 rebounds, nearly 54% from the field, 45% from behind the arc, and 82% from the charity stripe. But even then, those numbers really don't do it justice because Jaylen Williams, he's a bucket, dog. He gets what he wants when he wants it, and that level of shot creation adds a level of dynamic to this offense that it needs so it doesn't over depend on Shea and even over depend on Chet at times. Having somebody who can take advantage of the defense shifting off of the gravity from those two players really makes it difficult for any team in the NBA to defend the Oklahoma City Thunder. And actually, as I even speak about J-Dub, I think I would be remiss if I didn't even talk about Chet as well, because Chet Holmgren in his rookie season is completely underrated, as Chet is finishing off his rookie season averaging 17 points, 8 rebounds, nearly 3 assists, shooting splits of 54, 39, 79% from behind the arc. And again, the numbers just don't do any of these players any justice at all. Great shot creators, can really take advantage of mismatches, can create for their own facing up or in the post. And again, the level of dynamic that this offense needed is what has been the biggest separator from the Thunder last year to this season. The complexity is there now. The team doesn't overly extend Shea's ability to create for them. And now you can have a team when even Shea's off the floor that is still competent enough to create quality offensive sets, especially when we go into the postseason. I think it's the biggest reason why so many people, including myself, is intrigued on what this team can potentially look like heading into a playoff run where they're going to have home court advantage for at least 1 series, potentially 2. And actually maybe even 3 if they get the first seed, but who knows. And also when it comes to Chet, defensively, the numbers are there as well. He's recording 2 blocks a game, and at the rim, he's protecting the basket at a similar rate as a lot of other great defenders. And I do believe because of the rookie season that Wemby is having right now, it is completely overshadowing how good Chet has looked throughout his rookie campaign. There's still a lot of growth there, and I don't believe he's as good as Wemby, so please don't get me wrong. But in any normal situation, any other normal rookie season, Chet would be the rookie of the year by far. But unfortunately, that's just not happening, and it may continue throughout the remainder of his career because his name will constantly be tied with Wemby. But I do believe, again, the maturation, the quick maturation from both of these players is what has really separated the Thunder into putting them into a very intriguing position. And the offense that both of them provide, the floor spacing, shot creating, playmaking, and the consistency even when Shea isn't on the floor is what has really surprised many people, including myself. You could very well argue that if J-Dub looks this well offensively, especially from a scoring standpoint in year 2, my goodness, what he's going to look like in year 3 and 4. And I think a lot of people are starting to put him in conversations as a Robin such as Jaylen Brown. But I honestly believe, at least offensively speaking, he could be even better because I think he's a better shot creator, or at least his ceiling as a shot creator is much higher than Jaylen Brown's was in year 2. And then Chet, just all around both sides of the floor, the ceiling is really, really high for him. And I do believe they're building something very special out in OKC. And you got to give a huge shout out to those 2 players. Up next, we have Alperen Sengun. And I think there's like a renaissance of big men that has taken over the NBA, in particular foreign big men. I remember like maybe 10 years ago, like in the early 2010s, respectfully to those big men, it was weak, especially the center position. DeAndre Jordan and Joakim Noah, Marc Gasol were dominating the league. DeMar DeMarcus Cousins was putting up great numbers, but he was on the losing team, so a lot of people kind of overlooked who he was. But it wasn't really moving me, dog. It just wasn't. And here we are now, where we have great big men: Anthony Davis, Giannis, Joel Embiid, Jokic, Wemby, and now here we are, Sengun busting on the scene as well. Third-year big man, and he's putting up big numbers, standing at 6'3" this season, giving you 21 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. The passing and playmaking is what kind of separates Sengun, as well as a lot of other foreign bigs as well from the other big men. His ability to make certain reads, bounce passes in transition, out of the post, no look. Very Jokic-esque. Now, I know I may be jumping the gun there, but definitely giving me shades of Jokic a little bit there. The offensive weaponry is certainly off the charts for somebody who's at this stage of his career. And I do believe a lot of people have high hopes for a Houston Rockets team that is slightly overachieving. They're kind of butting into a play-in spot right now. Now, to be fair to the rest of the Houston Rockets players, Sengun has been out there still being able to win games. So to be fair to them, there is some conversations about, how impactful is this style of play from Sengun. And I do believe it's undeniable at this point. We've seen Jokic kind of win playing this way. You just got to build the right roster around him. But I do believe that Sengun's ability to be a post scorer, a great one, face-up game, can kind of take slower footed bigs off the dribble, get to the basket, finish great at the rim. But again, the passing and playmaking kind of separates him from a lot of other players and kind of gets him in that Domantas Sabonis, Nikola Jokic-esque type of a role. And again, when you have that type of offensive weaponry and the leap that we saw from him from one year to the next, I believe last season, he was only averaging 15 points, jumped up to 21, and in his rookie campaign, he was only averaging 10 points. So pretty quick turnaround for Sengun, somebody that, again, I think that this Houston Rockets team desperately needed some growth out of, and it's a breath of fresh air, can give you a little bit more dynamic play offensively, and should be highlighted. Shout out to the youngin' out there, man. 21 years old, doing his thing. Shout out to Houston, man. Definitely doing great things. Then we have Tyrese Maxey. This is the one that is going to bite me in the backside because I wasn't high on Maxey, admittedly, heading into the season. I believe that he really was the beneficiary of a lot of defenses shifting over to both Joel Embiid and James Harden last season. He was attacking closeouts. He really wasn't creating his own shots. And because of that, I thought the learning curve was going to be a bit too steep for him heading into this year. But hey, it's pretty hard to deny what we see in front of young fella, man. This season, he's giving you 26 points, nearly 4 rebounds, and 6 assists. Bro, the shot creation, oh my God. He digs a little bit too deep into that James Harden bag every now and then with that step back three. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. And it is transforming who he is as a player. More importantly, though, is the type of improvement. We're talking about a player who's averaging 26 points this year. Last year was only averaging 20, and the year before that, only averaging 17 and a half. A 10-point jump within a matter of 2 years in his first year in a new role. And he's taking on this type of offensive load very respectfully. I have to give Tyrese Maxey his credit. I apologize to the young brother out there. I did not think you had this in your bag. He has definitely aided this team, kept hope alive throughout the process, because if it wasn't for him, I do think that Philadelphia and who they were as a ball club will look definitely and completely different. Now, for the people out there who are being, in my opinion, unfair to him, criticizing him on what he may have looked like over the past couple of months now without Joel Embiid, I don't think that that's fair to him. Again, we're talking about a player who went from basically the second or third option 2 years ago to the third option last year to now the second option, in particular, the primary ball handler and shot creator for everyone that's not named Embiid. And to expect him to then take on an even further role within the middle of this season, I think is a bit excessive. The numbers have dipped a little bit as of late, especially the accuracy, the efficiency, and the consistency that comes behind all of that. But I think that's fine, bro. The brother is, how old is he? 23 years old? 23, bro. 23, new roles, new responsibilities, new coaches. It's fine. And more or less, the thing that I really like about Tyrese is that he still does what he does best: attacking closeouts, moving off ball, making it as easy as possible. One of the quickest players in the NBA right now. And it's a joy to watch him grow, mature, and he's really been very, very special all season long. I was not expecting this from him, and I have to give him all the praise in the world. After that, we had Jonathan Kuminga, 21-year-old out in Golden State. Kuminga, I have to give a lot of credit to him as well, because I didn't expect him to have this type of leap mid-season. This is a team that was struggling very early on to try to find some talent on the roster to surround Curry, especially during those games where Draymond was suspended after choking somebody out. And then Kuminga kind of came out on the scene and struggled a little bit. Was a lot of concerns about his defensive IQ, was fouling a lot, had a little bit of limitations offensively, but he just needed a lot more reps. He needed a little bit more PT, try to figure it out, and that he has. And when he has figured it out, it's looked really, really good. For the season, he's averaging 6 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. However, when he's inserted into the starting lineup, those numbers look like 18 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. Shooting splits of nearly 55% from the field, 33% from behind the arc, and 77% from the charity stripe. And if there is a little bit more refinement with the selection in the last 30 games, he's a near 20-point scorer, while the shooting splits are still virtually the same. So Kuminga providing that type of scoring prowess and being able to really take advantage and give this offense the much needed depth and complexity that it needs, especially when it comes to attacking the basket, being a little bit more aggressive inside and forcing the defense to do a little bit something more than just hang around the three-point line and contest jump shots. It's definitely something that this team needed. It's actually coaching malpractice that Steve Kerr had this man on the bench in the beginning part of the year while Wiggins and Clay were just struggling immensely. So that sucks, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you Warrior fans hate that. Again, I talked about that ad nauseum in my other video, so make sure you go check that out. But, Jonathan Kuminga, he's been a breath of fresh air, especially if you're a Warriors fan. Moving on to Coby White. The Bulls have found a golden nugget here with the young fella, and he's been out there producing. For the year, he's averaging 19.5 points, roughly around 5 rebounds, 5 assists, shooting splits of 45, 39, 84. And again, a breath of fresh air for a team that desperately needs it. Chicago, a lot of things haven't been working out in their favor. Lonzo's out with injuries. Zach LaVine is basically missing the entire year as well due to injuries, and even when he was playing, he wasn't 100%. A lot of trade conversations been circling around with all of those veterans out there, and a team that doesn't have much draft capital in the upcoming years. You don't really know what's going to happen in Chicago. It's getting kind of scary out there. So for Coby White to kind of step up on the scene and him putting this team on his back and being able to go out there and produce at a really, really high and respectable level, especially in the latter half of this season, has been great to see, especially because you always wondered how good was Coby White and was he possibly being misused in an afterthought in the Chicago Bulls franchise that was prioritizing some of their veterans that just respectfully was not translating into the type of wins that you would want to see from a team with the level of commitment that Chicago made. And similar to a lot of these other players, the numbers really don't do him justice. Coby White being able to pick up the offensive responsibility as a primary passer and playmaker, making sound reads, shot creation. He's had big games, big moments, stepped up to the plate, knocked down some big shots. And I love that out of a 23, 24-year-old, again, for a team that needs some spark and some youthness to them. I love that for the Chicago Bulls, and I love that for Coby White. I don't think many people thought that he was as good as he's shown. The glimpses have been there. Give him another year. Give him a bit more pieces to build around him specifically. And I do believe you'll get an even better version of Coby White moving forward, because a lot of the things that we've seen from Coby White this year has been respectfully on the fly. Like the team is still trying to figure out what they're going to do with DeMar, Vucevic, and if Zach LaVine comes back, then he's going to get pushed back even further. So for him to look this good on a team that has kind of just thrown him the reins a little bit more because Zach LaVine has been out, as well as Vucevic aging a little bit more than they probably expected, I do believe that he stepped up to the plate. He's exceeded expectations. Again, one of the better shot creators. And then finally, we have Duncan Robinson. Now, Duncan Robinson, this is me being very, very nerdy. I'm going to just be honest with you all, because the numbers may not be as extravagant as a lot of these other players are. I just know they're not. They're not as extravagant as a lot of these other players. I'm going to just be honest with you. But 13.5 points, not that crazy. Shooting about 46% from the field, 40% from behind the arc. And then we have the roughly like 2-3 rebounds. Now, the same point total that we saw out of him in his sophomore season. From that perspective, it's not really that impressive. But what is impressive, and this is where we get into the nitty gritty of things, Duncan Robinson is now averaging 3 assists. Duncan Robinson is now putting the ball on the floor and creating his own. He's driving to the basket and finishing pretty frequently as well. Matter of fact, I can put a number to this also because I have to give Duncan Robinson his just due. Duncan Robinson, in prior years, the percentage of his shots that fell from 0 to 3 feet to the basket, 6% in his sophomore season, 7-8%, then 7-8%, 5% this year. It's nearly 13. So putting the ball on the floor, creating his own shot. And again, these numbers aren't really like, they're not the greatest, just to be honest with you. They're just not. But I wanted to highlight Duncan Robinson because I think that his development from a offensive player has been great to see, because this team has needed a little bit more depth from their wing players outside of Jimmy Butler. And Duncan does provide that now. He's just not a spot-up shooter that can be shut down because he's too one-dimensional from a lot of playoff teams. Be very mindful of what he can do. He can put the ball on the floor, create his own, drive to the basket, finish at the rim. That development is certainly needed. And again, not the greatest way to maybe end this video, but I do believe that it was definitely worth highlighting. So that's the year. Some of the players you should be looking out for moving forward, not only in the playoffs, but in this upcoming offseason as well. I think some of these players could be on the move depending on how some of these teams may pan out during these playoff run, or maybe even moving forward, because some of these players, young contract coming up. Who knows? Who knows? Never really know in the NBA, but I definitely want to give a shout out to some of these players. I don't even care if this video gets that many views because giving players praise tend to not get that many views, but I felt it necessary to highlight how great and talented a lot of these players are. So that's the video. Please let me know your thoughts on other players who had breakout seasons down below. Also, if you enjoy content like this, as always, hit the subscribe button and notification bell. And until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.